Eldridge hollow hung heavy, as if laden with an unseen weight, tucked between jagged mountains and sprawling thickets. The town was perpetually shrouded in a thick canopy of trees that rarely granted the sun passage. A dull haze blanketed the area, like a persistent fog, muffling sounds and dulling colors, creating a sense of muted despair. The locals lived with a lingering wrongness, a profound unease gnawing incessantly at their insides. Paul, an aspiring writer in search of inspiration, thought he could dismiss the town's melancholic aura. Yet, as twilight descended, shadows deepened, and an unsettling disquiet rippled through him. Having rented a rustic cabin at the town's edge, Paul felt the very structure breathe with the whispers of the forest. From the moment he arrived, he could not shake the notion that something or someone watched him from just beyond the tree line. Initially, Paul dismissed these feelings as mere paranoia, a natural response to isolation and existential dread. However, soon the whispers began. At first, it was a mere suggestion, an unsettling sound as the wind wove through the branches above. But as days stretched into weeks, the whispers morphed into distinct, nonsensical syllables that curled around his thoughts like creeping tendrils. He tried to brush it off as the creaking wood and groaning beams of the cabin. But in the depths of his being, he knew it was something else. Gradually, he noticed peculiar shifts in his surroundings. The local fauna appeared altered. Bizarre footprints dotted the forest floor, impossibly large for any known animal. The town's residents were unsettling, a collection of hollow eyes and fleeting smiles that never quite met their lips, as if simply looking at him evoked something malign. They spoke in hushed tones, casting furtive glances over their shoulders, leaving Paul with an ever-deepening sense that they were enmeshed in something beyond his comprehension. Sleep eluded him, quickly replaced by vivid dreams that clawed at the edges of his sanity. In these nightmares, he found himself trapped within vast, starless voids, surrounded by grotesque shapes, flitting just out of sight. An ancient, unfathomable presence lurked just beyond his perception, teasing him with whispers of forbidden knowledge, dancing tantalizingly on the fringes of his understanding. As the weeks unfolded, the blurry lines separating nightmares from reality began to dissolve. His mind spiraled into unshakable paranoia. He habitually checked the corners of his cabin, convinced that unseen eyes scrutinized his every move. The townsfolk emerged in his periphery, forming a disconcerting camaraderie that he could not articulate. Their muffled voices sounding like incantations. Was he merely a pawn? Or worse, a catalyst for something terrifying lurking just out of sight? On a particularly oppressive evening, an intense and inexplicable compulsion drove him into the woods. The whispers crescendoed, pulling him deeper into the forest's heart, where gnarled trees twisted grotesquely as if revealing malign truths buried beneath their roots. In a clearing, bathed in a pulsating cerulean light, eerie shadows twisted and writhed, appearing almost alive. At the center of this unnatural glow rested an alien object, sleek yet incomprehensible, coiling and crumpling in ways that confounded his human mind. Unable to resist, he approached, the air thrumming with energy, vibrating against his skin like stray electricity. It tugged at the fragile threads, tethering reason to hysteria, filling the space with an unearthly presence that radiated both terror and allure. In that instant, Paul felt his mind fracture. The whispers became a cacophony, drowning out his thoughts and overwhelming him. Fleeting glimpses of a boundless multiverse flooded his senses, straining the fragile barriers of his mortality. He perceived beings that existed beyond the constraints of time and space, entities woven into the very fabric of the cosmos, lurking just beyond what could be seen. As he sank to his knees, engulfed by this tsunami of revelations, a singular realization coalesced within him. He was utterly insignificant, not merely in the vast scope of the universe, but within every atom of his being. The alien vessel pulsed ominously, a silent observer of his disintegration, and he understood, perhaps too late, that this was not just a confrontation with nature, but a communion with the unfathomable void waiting to consume him. Days transformed seamlessly into months, and Paul never returned to his cabin. Whispers of his presence faded within Eldridge Hollow, cautionary tales shared among townsfolk about the dangers of curiosity, their eyes knowing too well the dark secrets concealed within the depths of the forest. The warped world continued, acutely aware yet unperturbed, while the stars above twinkled mockingly, observing the unending struggle between longing and horror, offering no solace to the unknowing souls gazing up in search of light.